I don't like it. I don't like it. Hey, in this lesson, I'm going to teach you guys two other ways to say I don't like it. Hey, if you like getting tips like this, I would love it if you subscribe to my channel right down there. Okay, so, every day, when you go about your daily life, you have to say something like this, right? Maybe people ask you a question, whether you like something or not, or maybe you need to give your opinion about something. Okay, so you need to say something like this, but the problem with this is that it can be a bit rude. Okay, it's a bit too direct, like I don't like it. Or if you say no, I don't like it. It just, it comes across as a bit too direct. It's a bit rude. Maybe in your culture it's okay to say these things, but in our culture it's a bit too rude. So, like for example, let's say your boss asks you, "Hey, do you like Hawaiian pizza? Do you like Hawaiian pizza?" And you say, "No." Or you say, "I don't like it. I don't like it." It's a bit too it's a bit too rude. Even if, maybe it's not your boss, maybe it's your grandma, maybe it's your brother or your sister or your friends or something. I would say in most situations it's just a bit too it just comes across as a bit cold. You don't want to be a cold person. You want to be like a warm person. You want to be approachable. You want to be friendly and kind. Okay, so I would say that's it's a bit too direct. So the first word, remember, I'm going to give you two words. Okay, so the first word I want to teach you is the word fond. Okay, this is a great word. Okay, fond just means like. Okay, so if you say I'm not fond of it, that means you don't like it. And this is it's a nice way of saying it, right? It's just a more polite, it's a less direct way. It's less rude. Okay, so you just say I'm not fond of it. I'm not fond of it. Okay, now the second word I want to teach you is fan. Okay, so you could say I'm not a fan of it. Okay, that means the same thing. Okay, if you say I'm not fond of it or I'm not a fan of it, those are both two nice ways of saying you don't like something. Okay, now the difference I would say is that fond is a bit more formal. Okay, whereas fan is a bit more casual. Okay, so if you're talking to, I don't know, like let's say the Queen of England were to ask me a question. Let's say the Queen would ask me, "Hey Mark, do you like the weather here in England?" I would probably say, I'm not fond of it. I'm not very fond of it. I probably wouldn't say this because this is a bit more casual. This is something you might say between your friends. I mean, this could be casual too. They're both polite. They're both nice ways, but I would say this one is a bit more casual. This one is a bit better for, formal situations. Do you like my mustache? Do you like my mustache? Okay, then you could say, I'm not fond of it. Okay, or you could say, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not fond of it. I'm not a fan of it. Okay, so both of those would be, as nice as you can, to say that you don't like it. If you say, no, I don't like it, Mark. I hate your mustache. Okay, that's a bit, well, that's a bit direct. That's a bit rude, right? But if you say one of these, it's a much more polite. It's just nicer. It has a nicer feeling to it. Okay, let's look at another example. Do you like rap? Hey, do you like rap music? Okay, you could say I'm not fond of it. I'm not fond of it, or I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it. Okay, now very often when we use the word fond, we put a word here. You can put a word if you want here. Okay, and that word is called an intensifier. An intensifier. It means it sort of intensifies this word. Okay, for example, very or to or really, words like that, right? So I'm not very fond of it. I'm not too fond of it. I'm not really fond of it. Okay, so you can put a word in there. Now, one word that I really like, one intensifier that I really like, is the word overly. So let's say you would ask me, hey Mark, why don't you go to North Korea and make some videos there? Why don't you go to North Korea, Mark? I could say, I'm not overly fond of that idea. North Korea, I'm not overly fond of that idea. Okay, so I really like using this intensifier. Or another good one is particularly. Okay, I'm not particularly fond of that idea. North Korea, eh? I'm not particularly fond of going to North Korea. Okay, so you can use overly or particularly or very or to or really. Now with fan, we can also put a word here. Almost always, the word that you're going to put here is the word big or huge. Okay, so you can say, I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not a huge fan of that idea. Or I'm not a huge fan of going there. Whatever, okay? So both of these, they're a good word to put here before fan, okay? Do you like horror movies? Do you like horror movies? You could say, I'm not particularly fond of them. Nah, I'm not particularly fond of them. Or you could say, I'm not a big fan of them. Nah, I'm not a big fan of them. Okay, what did you think of the new restaurant? Hey, what did you think of the new restaurant? Let's say a new restaurant opens in your community, okay? And I ask you, hey, what did you think of the new restaurant last night when you went there? You could say, I wasn't overly fond of it. Or I wasn't a huge fan. I wasn't a huge fan. Okay, so sometimes, or very often, I should say, when we say fan, you don't need words after it. You don't need to say, I wasn't a huge fan of it. You can take away the of it, and you can just say, I wasn't a huge fan, or I wasn't a big fan. Okay, do you like animals? I'm not really fond of animals. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a huge fan. Okay, are you fond of your boyfriend? Nah, I'm not fond of my boyfriend at all. I'm gonna dump him. Hey, maybe that's you. Are you fond of your boyfriend? If you're not, you could say this. You could say, nah, I'm not fond of him at all. I'm gonna dump him. Dump means to break up. So if you're gonna break up with your boyfriend today, you could say this. I'm gonna dump you, you stupid boyfriend, because I'm not fond. That would be pretty rude. Don't be rude to your boyfriend. Be nice. Let him down gently. Okay. So the tip I just want to give you guys today is, next time you want to say this, or you're in a situation where you think you should say this, maybe consider saying one of these two. Okay, we say these all the time. They're very common. I use these all the time. Okay, so these are great. They're polite. They're less direct. They're less rude. Okay, so I think these are a great way to take your English to the next level. Hey, let's do some homework. I want to know, what are some things you are not fond of? What are some things you're not a fan of? Let me know down there in the comments. Maybe you're not a fan of spicy food, and you could say, hey, Mark, I'm not fond of spicy food, or I'm not overly fond. I'm not particularly fond of spicy food, or I'm not a big fan of spicy food, or no, I'm not a huge fan of that. Okay, so let me know your ideas and what you're fond of and what you're not fond of down there in the comments. I hope you guys are having a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you over in the next episode of Mad English TV. Take care.